Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for staying with us this morning, focusing now on another topic. And these statistics, which were reported earlier by a national newspaper, were quite alarming. The question is whether or not it was surprising. It says that in the last 9 months in Trinidad and Tobago, so from January of 2024 to September of 2024, 120 children have been arrested and charged with crimes. And this is data from the Crime and Problem Analysis Unit of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Now, for the corresponding periods between January 1st and September 30th, 2021, 143 children were charged. In 2022, this increased to 181 children, and in 2023, we saw 239 children. So there seems to have been a decline since 2021 in the figures up until this point. At the end of the year, further figures would be very much, we need to get a better understanding of that. But would you believe that the number one charged, children have faced when arrested by the TTPS is that of possession of arms and ammunition? The second highest being crime committed by children, and that of armed robberies. Again, I ask you, is this at all surprising? The figures are alarming, but should we be surprised? Oftentimes, when we see these reports being released by the TTPS, and you take a look at the age of these criminals, 20, 23, 19, 18. Even some as young as 8 years old have been apprehended by the police. I'm joined this morning by the founder of the Roots Foundation, a gentleman who we've had extensive conversations with on AM Prime before, Mr. MTIMA SOLWAZI. Good morning, sir. Welcome back to the program. It's good to see you.
Yes, good morning, Kita, and good morning to your viewers and listeners locally and across the globe. Thanks for having me again.
So, Mr. SOLWAZI, I wonder if you can answer that question for me from a personal standpoint. Is this at all surprising to you? We will always be taken aback by such figures, but given the reporting and given what we've seen from the TTPS in their operations and the apprehension of suspects, they always seem to be getting younger and younger.
So, good morning again. I read the same article, and I reached out to my team at Roots Foundation to begin a discussion on said article, because for me, yes, it is alarming, but it's not surprising, unfortunately, unless I was living in a different Trinidad and Tobago from the population. Children in crime is nothing new, right? As I quoted the statistics earlier, for 2024, 120 children arrested, right? And they gave a breakdown of 109 boys and 11 girls. Now, using the same figures, Kita and Nation, they also said that of that figure in 2024, that 120, 39 were detained or remanded or accommodated, whatever words you want to use, at the Youth Transformation and Rehabilitation Center, YTRC, formerly YTC. 39 clients, 37 boys and 2 girls. So we have that same period, 120 children arrested, but 39 at YTRC. Where is the 81? If you do that quick maths, Kita, where is the 81 children from that 120 that were arrested? Are they dead? Are they outside still? Because only 39 in YTC. But I want us to look at that figure for 2022, and I want to bring up the National School Discipline Matrix that the Ministry of Education did for the period April to July 2022. In 2022, they said that 181 children were arrested, 170 boys, 11 girls. But in 2022, 47 were at the YTRC, 43 boys, 4 girls. Where is the 134? So, as much as these statistics are alarming, when you go deeper into it, you realize that we have a serious problem. In 2022, the ministry did a National School Discipline Matrix, look at children from Forms 1 to Form 3. The TTPS said in 2024 the crime was 34 for 51 for ammunition, arms and ammunition in 2022. In the school discipline matrix for possession of weapons between the period April to July 2022, 58. Threat with weapons, 6. For that same corresponding period, CAPA reported 309 cases for firearms and ammunition. Is there a correlation between some of those who were held in school with those items held by the TTPS? Robbery and theft, 48 in the schools. Extortion and taxing, 11. CAPA, robberies, 701. And the last category I want to look at is assault with weapons, 29. Fight with weapons, 29. CAPA, wounded and shootings, 209. So, yes, we have a problem, but it didn't start in 2022. It did not start in 2021, right? And do you remember the Dolcedi, the famous or infamous Dolcedi gang? There was a young man who was hung with that group called Stephen Eversley, also known as Brains. If you look up on the internet, you're not getting the date of birth for Stephen Eversley, but you know the death, which was 1999. That was when they were hung. I knew Brains personally, and Brains was involved in armed robbery from the age of 7. That was back in the 80s. I've been trying to do the math over the weekend and say, if I met Brains when he was 7, I was 13 thereabouts. Give or take, Brains would have been 21 when he was hung. But they were arrested in 1994. That means Brains would have been 16 years old when he committed that heinous crime. And that's just one individual who I know personally. I'm sure your viewers, your listeners could recount many young people they know who began into crime early. Right? And the last anecdote I'll give is Ja David, or David Andrews, right? Who deceased Uncle Roy and Auntie Gloria took under the wing. I again knew him personally, and he was involved in gangs from age 7, right? He died. He was killed in 2013 at age 33. I'm talking about I knew him back in the 80s again. So this is nothing new, unfortunately, to our society. The question is, what are we doing? And I hope we could touch on that a bit before this interview ends.
No, let's touch on it now. That's the whole point about it, because even reports from police indicate that children as young as 8 years old are involved in extortion. Children are being used as lookouts by the gangs, and even being used to hold weapons when police are conducting raids or searches. That's according to the yes. The thing is, Mr. Solwazi, these are children who are not even graduating beyond primary school, but they're graduating amongst the ranks of gangs and criminal organizations in TNT. So is it that society is structured in a way that we're not teaching children right from wrong?
But no, as a colleague of mine said to me last night, right, we're not sharing this with her, she said, MTIMA, I'm starting to feel upset because children in crime is a societal issue, and we fail to take responsibility, right? Now, listen, the article was well written. I applaud that journalist. The article went on to say that the police reported that when they have a tough time in East Port of Spain, when they're making raids, that the children are alerting the gang members. Question: what time are these raids being conducted? Is it in the morning, during Monday to Friday? Why are the children not in school? Is it in the night? Why are they not inside? Is it in the afternoons? Why are they on a block? Right? So, yes, it's one thing for us to say, boy, the children are, and that is nothing new. When I was young, I was a lookout back in the days. And when I read the statement, I just said, the children say, I find that's a long statement. You know, they come in. I find that's a lot. When we were younger, the code was cuckoo, cuckoo. And once you start to hear that cuckoo sounding out, you know, police organize themselves, right? So if the code is now a whole sentence, right? The question is, why are these children outside? Okay, there's a sociologist called Elijah Anderson, and he did some intensive study in the Chicago communities, in the city communities. And from the communities, he came up with two categories of families, the decent family and street family. And he came up with a concept called the code of the streets. What we are seeing rolling out here is exactly that. The code of the streets, a set of informal rules governing interpersonal public behavior, including violence. Including violence. Right? That was a study done back in 1994 by Elijah Anderson. So you have the decent families, you have the street families, or the street-oriented families. And there are rules governing these two groups of people. And if you look at your community, for instance, a friend of mine was saying, when she was younger and girls outside in the evening, her mother would say, where are their mothers? Where are the parents? Because street children, roam or street-oriented children, they have no curfew. They roam the streets, right? They have no accountability. That behavior is encouraged by some adults, be it parents or other adults in the community, right? So we have to first understand that scenario and understand that, hey, how to treat with these children, right? Do you know, and I'm going straight into that, do you know that in Hennepin County, in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, in the United States of America, at present, now as we speak, they have a mandated curfew for children? I visited that county in 2017 as part of the International Visitors Leadership Program organized by the U.S. Embassy Port of Spain, right? Or through the U.S. Embassy Port of Spain, with a Department of State program. And when I saw, we were at the sheriff office, and I saw they had a curfew, I was amazed. Under 12 years of age, the curfew during the week, 9 p.m. On weekends, 10 p.m. Well, you know, sun has set late over there, based on, you know. So it's not like the outside till 9 at night. It's like a kind of, right. 12 to 14, 10 p.m. weekdays, 11 p.m. on weekends. Ages 15 to 17, 11 p.m. on weekdays, midnights and weekends. So it's only for COVID and state of emergency we can have a curfew. We cannot really take this thing wholly bull by the horn, like I like to say, and protect our children. Also in Hennepin County, the whole parents are accountable. If your child is outside of the curfew hours, the whole parents are accountable.
Sometimes, Mr. SOLWAZI, I wonder, you know, how many parents are actually aware of where their children are at certain points throughout the day, particularly if they're not in school. You know how many parents are actually aware of this? Now, people are going to argue, you know, it's a tough job for parents. They have to work.
Yes,
They don't have time.
I agree.
But what you are putting forward here, what you're speaking about, is a structured approach to dealing with this situation.
But you have to have it.
But you have to have it. But as you're pointing out, this is something that's not new to us. This is going on for decades. So why is it that we don't have it? Why is
Peter,
it that statistics always have to keep coming back to us?
because we like numbers and we don't want to deal with the number. In 2011, January 11th, a newspaper, a national newspaper, reported that the then Minister of Education, Tim Gopison, asked the question, where are 4,000 pupils from this on the school system? And I want to read the Minister Gopi Singh said yesterday, right, at a launch, right? I'm sorry, he had launched, he launched a nationwide search for pupils, many of whom are feared to have turned to a life of crime. We reported that in the newspaper. What have we done as a society since 2011 to address 4,000 children who are missing from the education system? I didn't get a chance to look for an article recently again. An alarming figures, students missing them, but then best be calling the search and rescue team. We so comfortable to say students missing from the school system. We cannot be comfortable saying that, Kita, a nation, right? And we have to understand, I'm saying this here publicly, America has a school to prison pipeline. We do have that. You know why we do have that? With the population as of October the 2nd in YTRC, 47. So we do have a school to prison pipeline. And I heard a opposition MP taking my thing. We have a school to gangs pipeline. I've been watching this trend for years. The population in YTRC, even as YTC, have been dropping. And back in those, I've been volunteering at YTC since 2005, thereabouts. And I was happy. I said, woo, you know, the population going down, but then crime on the outside on the rise
No,
amongst children.
Mr. SOLWAZI, sometimes I wonder if that is being devil's advocate, and I'm expressing my true opinion here. I sometimes wonder if that's a deliberate thing because it's cheaper to leave these juvenile offenders on the street. It's cheaper to let them succumb to their own actions or their own participations than for us to deal with them, than for us to take them in and to try to rehabilitate them. It's just cheaper to let the consequences of their actions, deal with them, and deal with the situations.
I agree, and I'm sure many of your listeners and viewers would also agree. And I'm not here painting doom and gloom, right? Because I love to read comments on social media. It's not about doom and gloom. It's about we have to do something and we can do something. And I want to commend a lot of and we're in a silly season, so I have to be careful, everybody, you know, campaigning. But I really, you cannot not commend Minister Foster Cummins and Shampa Kujo Lewis for some programs they have implemented, especially that Empower with Minister Shampa Kujo. They're doing a lot, right? But we have to go younger because you realize the caption for some of these programs is from 16 up. And I know the ministers are looking at that, right? But we have, the Children's Authority has to understand that we have to go younger and engage. I remember deceased Father Pantin many years ago, visited a preschool, one of the preschools that are under Silval. And at the preschool, a child said, my daddy have a big gun. Just innocently, you know, unprovoked. The child probably saw the gun and so excited that my daddy have a big gun. And Father Pantin remark to us was, there is where we have to start. There is where we have to start. Right? East Port of Spain is plagued with petty crimes and some serious crimes. And, you know, I'm telling a colleague of mine, I say, is year in, year out, decade in, decade out, we have to be fighting this. Some of the guys who used to be snatching chain, robbing people in Port of Spain, either they're dead, they're in prison, or they grew out of it. But yet still, you have that problem in East Port of Spain, in that Port of Spain area. because they're getting younger and younger. Some of them are the siblings of the family, or cousins, or just neighbors seeing this culture, right? And just adapting to that, right? So we have to do more. I know the police youth clubs really engaging. I think it's from 5 years old. We have to be, this is good, we have to be more aggressive, right? Because it is a problem. Look at the statistics, right? I just quoted 2 young men that had public prominence, if you want to say, Stephen Eversley and Jar David, right? And I knew them personally. They started at the age, when I met them, they were 7. They could have started earlier. And that's scary to see they started earlier. But when I met them, because they told, I asked, but small man, where's your age, boy? I 7 years old. That's what they told me. Unless they're lying, right? So that was in the 80s. We had 7-year-old criminals because Brains was already robbing, armed robbery, and Jar David was already in gangs.
You know, you just said something that we have to be more aggressive. Do you think, and this is how society has become,
No, when I say aggressive.
no. Before
Yeah.
you continue, because an aggressive approach is probably needed at this point. Aggressive not necessarily meaning violent, and aggressive not.
Yeah.
No. But aggressive approach means we need to be strong in our position.
Yes.
And we need to be strong considering the circumstances. You think that parents who, and I personally think that parents should start being held accountable for the actions of their children, but that's a different topic. Do you think that society as a whole would be accepting of that? Society has become a place where we don't accept discipline. We don't like being corrected. You know, do you think that is something that even then we'll see some success in TNT? And I guess it depends on how you define aggressive too.
No, I go back again. Public safety and emergency management, Hennepin County curfew, and parents are being held accountable. We joking, boy. I will endorse that. I was telling my wife only this morning, years ago, I driving through that Nova area, all through the back road, not only Lady Young, right, all through the back and coming through the different communities. And I saw scores of young men just on the block linemen. And I started to do a process of elimination, a positive process of elimination. I say, okay, some of the younger ones, they're probably on suspension. Some of the older ones probably worked last night, or they're working tonight, or today's the day off, right? If we remove that from the equation, what is the reason for so many young men on the streets during daytime hours, during the week? I mean, there's dropouts. That means exactly what the UN talk about now. They're not in employment, education, or training. They need. That's a new term now. They need. They're not in employment, education, or training. And if years ago that bothered me, that doesn't bother anybody else or what? And I've been aggressive now with that statement. And then somebody will ask, what are you doing? Hey, trust me, boss. We're doing plenty. And I want to throw this out now to the nation. Get involved with NGOs, NPOs who on the ground, because we're doing the work. Not just Roots Foundation. I have many others, I could call the names now. Right? Because we know each other, we support each other. Get involved with our NPO and go into the communities for them. And if I cannot go into the communities for whatever reason, I respect that. We respect that. Put your money. Kita, this is me being aggressive here. Put your money, right? And if you don't have money to put, give us a network. Give us a connection. Hey, Kita, you know this man, what's his name, boy? MTIMA, yeah. Roots Foundation, check them out. Put us on to a network because you have networks. There's no excuse KETA and the nation, KETAN and the nation, why we cannot solve this problem and turn this thing around, right? Everybody have a responsibility. We like to talk about crime is everybody business, and not everybody business to make a dollar, you know. Everybody business to make an intervention. And I'm saying it again, reach out, and everybody know all the NPOs. They're always on Facebook, either promoting what they're doing, asking for money. We always on Facebook. We always on Facebook, Instagram, all about the place. Reach out to us.
I was just about to say, Mr. Solwazi, as you said, we all have a responsibility and a role. When it comes to us understanding, accepting, executing our responsibilities, it seems as though we always like to shift such responsibilities and even such blame upon everything and everyone else.
We like to play ping pong. Yes, so passing by. Yeah, no, it's your KETAN. It's you. KETAN is you. But here we are to know. If you want to play ping pong, no problem. Here what you need to do, nation. Hold the ball in your hand and make a proper serve. Start to serve in your nation. Start to serve in the community. We have a responsibility. So I don't mind you want to play ping pong. Pass the ball. Oh, yeah, KETAN, you. KETAN, no, you. Okay. At one point in time, KETAN, you have to hold that ball in your hand. Okay, you want to score it? Hold that ball in your hand. And gauge your serve. And make a nice serve in your communities, right? Don't feel it's somebody else's problem, right? It's PNM problem, UNC problem, it's everybody else's problem besides our problem. And I'm not bashing anybody like this with this statement here, but most of us has come out when unfortunately it reached home. No, Malcolm X said it beautifully. No, they come on the roost, right? And that we cannot wait for that to come out of that placard and come out with this and come out with that. The interview you had it just before, no, and you and the interviewer said that this is not a new thing, bullying, you know. So why we pretending that, you know? All right. So it's when it's extreme. Look what happened. It reached the extreme. The podcasts come out and the social media warriors come out and everybody come out now when we should be addressing this thing because we know, you know, because again, we are a culture picong. I like to get, why? You know how big your head is, why did I not? You know, we like to get picong, right? But we see the effects, the devastating, detrimental effects of picong, you know? So, but going back to our children, anybody can type it in. Hennepin County curfew, right on the website. They have a curfew, right? Why we cannot implement a curfew to get our KETAN? What you doing outside linemen after 10 p.m. in the night?
I personally will tell you that I don't even bother to go outside my house once the sun starts to set. I try to avoid going out. I mean, I like to socialize and all that, but lately I've been taking a step back. So
a child might say, "Mommy, I line with my friends and them." That line could continue during the daytime.
imagine a kid saying, imagine a child now saying alignment. Imagine that now. I mean, as I said, kids are not graduating primary school, but they're graduating up the ranks.
And it's not now, eh? It's not now. You called some ages earlier. Franklin John, aka Weasel, who was the head of the Young and the Restless back in the 80s in Maloney Gardens. When he was killed, when I was young, I didn't really make sense of it until I got older. But when he was killed, he was 22 years old. So as an adult, now I'm saying, but wait now, how old Weasel really was when he was the leader of one of the most notorious gangs in Trinidad at that time, that era. He had to be around 15, 16, boy. Because he was killed at age 22. Bulls. We know Bulls from Toots and Bulls. When Bulls was murdered, he was also 22. But I remembered when we heard about Bulls, he was 16 years old when we heard about him. He was a hired hitman. KETAN, there's the 80s, you know, boy. There's the 80s, you know.
And look at us talking about now. Look at us talking about now. Mr. SOLWAZI, we are a bit over time, but we're gonna have to pause it there for now. I want to thank you for joining us on the program and giving it some historical context as well. Thanks so much for your time as always, and we look forward to the next.
Thank you very much for your for the interview, and remember, get involved, serve. Let's serve nation. Thank you, KETAN.
Indeed, sir. Thank you very much. All the very best to you and your continued works with the Roots Foundation, to the entire team. Thank you guys very much. All the very best. Well, ladies and gentlemen, take home that message. Get involved. And when I say get involved, when Mr. SOLWAZI says get involved, we don't mean in the wrong things. Most of us are already involved in that and so occupied by all these things, we tend to forget our roles and responsibilities for each other. Yes, we become selfish where we have to look out for our personal safety, but we also have to look out for one another. And I know you may say, well, people won't accept help. People don't need help. Sometimes people don't even recognize when they need a helping hand. You should do a job in trying to execute that. All right, let's take a break here on AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. And when we return, started off some very heavy discussions this morning. We're going to end with Wild Wednesdays. So stay tuned for that after this.